their plates, just like this.
The Canadian Brewhouse in Victoria is buzzing, training up many new workers here and hundreds more at locations across the country.
We've probably increased our staffing by about 25% or about 800 staff.
Restaurants and hotels are adding workers as fast as they can, trying to meet demand as more Canadians eat out and travel. For businesses trying to hire, it's stiff competition.
It does challenge us to find more creative ways to recruit, and you have to look at compensation, benefits packages, the whole gamut to try and entice people to understand your brand.
That's pushing up paychecks. Average hourly wages were up almost 4% in May, compared to a year earlier. Ellen Chen recently scored herself a higher salary. The lawyer jumped from a major law firm to a tech company.
They did offer me some more interesting conditions, both in terms of pay, remote work, and in terms of flexibility in hours.
Chen says she's heard from many recruiters over the past few months, and she's not alone.
Lots of my friends are also changing jobs. I looked at LinkedIn almost every day, somebody's switching jobs.
In a tight job market, employees have more leverage, but higher wages come with a cost.
Employers now have to pay a lot more for workers, and that means the cost of production of everything goes up, and they have to increase prices then to compensate for that.
So while higher wages are good news for workers, they can add to already soaring inflation, giving policymakers more reason to keep raising interest rates in the months ahead. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
Our business correspondent Peter Armstrong is watching this closely. And Peter, inflation is casting such a shadow over these job numbers.
It is, Ian, and it's really because inflation it eats into everything. You know, you look at these numbers, wages are up, 3.9%? Great, until you consider inflation was probably 7% or so in May. So actually, these wages are negative 3.1%. Workers are losing ground, but you know, inflation is much more than just the numbers. It's an insidious thing. If you think inflation is going to get worse and maybe cause a recession, you'll scale back on spending to save. But in doing so, you may inadvertently amplify a downturn. So that's why we're watching everything through the lens of inflation right now.
And so much of what drives inflation is global: high oil prices, shipping, food costs. So what about interest rate hikes? Can they do the trick?
They can, but you're right. A big part of this is global, but a big chunk of it, remember, is domestic too. Today's numbers in the U.S., for example, show core inflation, so stripping out gas and food. That's up by 6%. Shelter costs are surging, airfares are way up, cars, clothes as well. So the central banks in the U.S., but here in Canada as well, can't throw up their arms and say, it's all global, there's nothing we can do. The question, though, is can they strike a balance? Can they raise interest rates to slow inflation, but not so much that they end up causing a recession?
Okay, Peter, thank you.
You bet.